Should you hold off until the economy stabilizes, or should you go out and buy a new house right now? We put that question to our real estate expert, Chris Schilling from Turbo Realty. Chris, we appreciate the time. Thanks for coming in.
You bet.
So we continue to hear on the news media, including right here on Fox 26, oftentimes that right now is the best time to buy a house. The prices have dropped. The interest rates are at all-time lows in the 3.9, 3.8% range.
You bet.
Is it really the best time to buy? Why or why not?
And the real answer is maybe. And it's all going to depend on your circumstances. And this is where you need to sit down with a real estate professional, sit down with your financial consultants, and go through all of this analysis. We're going to talk about it briefly. Some of the questions that you ought to be asking yourself and the people around you in order to make a good decision.
Yeah, one of the first and foremost questions that you need to ask is how long do you plan to live in that house, right?
You bet. So if you know, so a lot of the oil companies, they move their people every 2 to 3 years. You know, if you're going to have a shorter duration in the home, maybe it's not a good time to buy a house, because if you're looking for the economy to stabilize, we don't know if that's going to take a year or 3 years or 5 years, so we really don't know those things. And so if you know that you're going to have to transition to another location in a shorter period of time, maybe it makes more sense to live with family or relatives.
And also another question when it comes to your work is how secure do you feel with your current employer? I mean, are you pretty secure there?
Right, and so, you have to look at where it is that you work. You have to look at what it is that you do. Do you have skill sets so that in the event that you lost your job, are you replaceable? Could you find another job pretty quickly? And so those are good things for you to sit down and talk about to make sure that you know that you're going to have stable employment over the next several years.
And there's a lot of things that a lot of people don't think about until they go through the process of buying a home. My wife and I have a home. We're considering moving elsewhere, and I didn't realize, when I bought my first home, it was literally the second one we looked at. I'm like, yeah, that one looks good. But now we have a child. There are things you're going to look at, like what school district are you in? What kind of tax rate are you paying?
It makes a huge difference. And so you look at some of the newer communities, and they may have tax rates of 4.2% on your assessed value, as opposed to a lot of the homes that are within the city limits, they're 2.5. And we talk about these numbers kind of loosely, but when you're talking about thousands of dollars, it makes a big difference. But then you have to look at the school districts, you have to look at the security that's in the communities. Are those going to be good things for your family as you kind of progress? Do they have great elementary schools, or do they have a great middle school? Are we going to be able to transition the child and stay there for a long period of time? Do we like the area? And also really, how close is it to my work? So location has a lot to play with how long it is that you stay in that home.
And one of the obvious questions, and you touched on it earlier, is like, if you don't live in a house, where are you going to live? An apartment? Are you going to stay with relatives?
Right, and so what are your choices? And so we have options these days. Many cultures in this country live communally, and so it's a great idea and concept to be able to save money, live with your family. That's a great way to save cash. The other options are to rent. But then what you do is that we think that somehow you have more flexibility, but now you're translating all your security to the landlord, making sure that they're paying the mortgage, as opposed to you. And so you really need to look, is this a good thing for me to live in an apartment or not? Or do I want to be the captain of my own destiny and own my own property and be responsible for it?
Is it harder to buy a home now? I know we say it's a good time to buy because of the interest rates, because the prices are down, but is it harder because the lending guidelines are more strict now? You got to put more money down?
You don't really have to put more money down. It's
that's one of those rumors out there that people say you've got to put 20% down, so only people with this stockpile of cash are able to get in.
So you can buy a home with 5% down. There's lots of government programs that are still out there in order to help homeowners buy property.
But let me interrupt you. Isn't that what got us in trouble the first time? Is people getting homes for not a whole lot down?
The problem we really had before was that you could buy a home with zero down, and then what happened was that home prices went up, and then people refinanced and cashed out, and so they took a $200,000 house that went to $400,000. They borrowed $100, and so now they're in it for $300, and it's really only worth $200. That's the problem.
Okay.
But as far as homeowners, it's a great time to be considering it, but make sure to ask lots of questions. Get with a real estate professional that's not just going to show you houses, but it's going to take you through the financial analysis to make sure that it is a good time for you.
A lot to think about. Need a professional like Chris. Chris, we appreciate the time. Thank you, sir, from Turbo Realty.